Good morning, everybody. Most of us have been in a situation where we have to use pain relievers of any kind, whether it be due to a headache or a sports injury or even after surgery. And I personally have come in touch with painkillers fairly often, especially in the months from about August until November when football season is in full swing and my body hurts pretty much every day. Even though I think, Even though I do not think that it's a long-term solution, sometimes there's just no other way to get through practice than to take an ibuprofen or maybe even two. And I also agree that painkillers are a necessity in some situations, but also think that they should not be used. That they should be used at bare minimum, meaning only for illnesses or injuries or other emergencies. I think that we as a society abuse painkillers, and it's not only detrimental to our health, but also the health of our families. To start out, let's define how pain relievers even work. According to regiscollege.edu, painkillers interfere with pain messages sent to the brain via nerve endings, which then affect the brain, the spinal cord, or the injured area. There's three types of medications that will create this. The first one is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which would be aspirin or ibuprofen. The second is paracetamol, which would be Tylenol, and the third are opioids such as oxycodone or fentanyl. Now, some people argue that painkillers are a necessity when we're hurt or having aches of any kind, and they would go on saying that there's nothing else we can do about that besides, taking painkillers. But I really think that we need to understand why we have the pain or the aches that we're feeling, and that they don't just appear out of nowhere. There's always a reason for what's going on in our body, and we should try to locate the problem and then actively try to get rid of it. For example, let's say when someone has a headache, it might be because that person is stressed or they haven't slept enough. And yeah, the Tylenol is going to temporarily fix the problem and get rid of the headache, but the headaches will come back again and again. And if the root of the problem is not faced, there's not going to be a solution. Therefore, I think most issues can be solved differently and in a healthier fashion. Another reason why pain relievers are used as much as they are is so that people do not have to make an appointment at a physician's place or even in the hospital. That means that that person's healthcare costs would be lower if they avoid those trips. And it might be a solution in some cases, but when looking at the side effects of painkillers, one can see that overuse or even abuse of them can oftentimes lead to health problems such as, let's say, stomach bleeding, heartaches, or kidney damage. According to kindhealth.co, only non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs already hospitalize over 100,000 people annually and kill over 16,000. An important fact about the gigantic pharmaceutical industry is that painkillers make up a quarter of their revenue, says pharmaceuticalprocessingworld.com. And a radical decrease in this revenue would also mean that jobs would be lost for many individuals, which would then put more people into jeopardy of poverty, which therefore some people argue that it would be immoral or simply not the right decision to cut back on those sales, because their philosophy is that the population needs those painkillers and the pharma companies fill this need. Even though that argument does make sense economically, I think that we have to make a choice between either our economy or our citizens. And the more we use painkillers, the more our bodies build up a resistance against them, which leads then to us needing a higher dosage for the same results that we're trying to get. And that's also how the deadly cycle starts for people a lot of times. Some people start out by using any kind of painkiller and use it until it does not satisfy their needs anymore or they can't afford them anymore. And that's when they have to use something else, which then creates many heroin addictions. In fact, drugabuse.com states that about 3 out of 4 heroin addicts reported that they were introduced to opioids through prescription painkillers. And the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, reports that overdoses involving painkillers killed over 47,000 people only in 2017. Even though the US would lose revenue in the area of the pharma industry, they would save money in many other areas if we as a country could get this drug epidemic under control. An estimation of 2007 concluded that the US would actually save around $55 billion in premature deaths, healthcare costs, and criminal justice costs. In conclusion, I understand the problem that we have at hand here, and it's a huge issue in our society that is often a taboo to many. But we have to take this problem seriously, and we have to try to fight this opioid epidemic in this country. The way to start out is by not using as many little painkillers that we like to. We use ibuprofen or we use Tylenol so often that it has been normalized to take it almost every day, and no one really thinks about it badly anymore. If we consider that an awful drug addiction might be awaiting one of us in the future, I think we might think twice about overusing those painkillers for, let's say, something temporary like sports or because we're stressful right now. We need to find real solutions to our problems and not those temporary quick fixes. Trying to relax is the first step to being less stressed and maybe preventing headaches. Enough sleep would be another way to prevent injuries to happen, which would then lead to decreased use of painkillers as well. All in all, we all need to figure out what is best for us personally, and it will help us most. But I'm sure that painkillers are not the solution, and I hope that we can attack this problem together. Thank you guys for listening.